All right, everyone, get ready for a deep dive today into Sweetpea by C.J. Skuse.
Oh, yes.
Specifically, we'll be looking at the audiobook on Audible. You know, the one that's
Yeah.
getting so much attention lately.
Definitely.
It even got adapted for TV. And let's be honest, that premise is just killer.
Yeah.
A totally normal, everyday young woman named Rhiannon who's secretly a serial killer.
Yeah.
And the whole thing's told through her diary entries.
So good.
Talk about juicy.
It's amazing how Skuse uses that diary format, right?
Oh, totally.
Gives us a window right into Rhiannon's head, all her thoughts, her frustrations, and how she gets rid of those frustrations.
I know. I was hooked right away when the reviewers mentioned Rhiannon's kill list.
Oh, yeah.
At the beginning of every single diary entry, there it is.
Wow.
Just a casual list of people who annoyed her that day.
Interesting.
Like, you know, the grocery store clerk who's too slow or someone who cut her off while driving.
I can see it.
It really makes you think.
Yeah.
Like, what would it take to end up on that list?
It's like dark comedy gold.
Nice.
Skuse doesn't just say, Rhiannon's a serial killer and leave it at that.
No.
She shows us through these totally normal, relatable annoyances. It's like she's saying, hey, we've all been there. We've all had those moments where we fantasize about, well, you know.
For sure.
But Rhiannon actually takes it a step further,
Yeah.
and that's where things start to get creepy.
Exactly. On one hand, you're laughing at how over the top her reactions are to these everyday things.
Mm.
But then it hits you. She's not just venting in her diary, she's actually planning things out
Yeah.
and actually doing them. One reviewer said that the difference between us and Rhiannon is that she doesn't just think it, she does it.
Mhm.
That sent chills down my spine.
What's fascinating is how Skuse makes Rhiannon likable,
I know.
even charming, despite her, well, extracurricular activities, let's say, is a fine line, making her relatable without condoning what she does. That complexity is what makes Sweet Tea more than just your average thriller. You find yourself questioning how you feel about her constantly.
And I have to mention Georgia McGuire, the audiobook narrator. From the reviews I've seen, people are saying she absolutely nails Rhiannon's voice.
Oh, wow.
She brings out that dark humor and that underlying darkness so well.
Have you ever listened to an audiobook where the narrator just becomes the character?
Oh, for sure.
It's like a good actor.
Totally.
McGuire doesn't just read the words, she becomes Rhiannon. You hear the humor, the rage, that coldness, all in her voice. Makes you wonder how much of the audiobook's popularity is because of her performance.
Yeah.
The book itself is fantastic, but McGuire just takes it to a whole other level.
It makes you want to just dive right in.
Totally.
And we will. But first, let's break down what makes Sweetpea so unique. It's not just a thriller, it's a satire on modern life. Our frustrations, anxieties, and, let's be real, those dark thoughts we all have sometimes. But before we get too deep into that, I'm curious. Have you ever come across a character like Rhiannon before? Someone who repulses you, but you're also kind of drawn to?
That's a good question. Let me think. I think there are a few that come to mind, but maybe not quite like Rhiannon. There's something so specific about her.
Right.
It's that combination of being totally ordinary, like someone you might pass on the street and not even notice. But then she has this dark side, this hidden life that's so extreme.
Definitely.
It's like she's living a double life.
And it's not just the serial killer part, it's the way she justifies it all. Like, it's perfectly normal to just eliminate anyone who annoys her.
Right, exactly. And the way she uses those lists, it's almost like a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
A really messed up coping mechanism.
Definitely.
But it's that contract that makes her so compelling.
Totally agree.
Like, you can't help but wonder what would push someone that far.
I know, right?
It's like she's a reflection of some of our darkest impulses.
Absolutely.
Just taken to the extreme.
That's what makes it so unsettling.
Yeah.
Because on some level, we can all relate to that feeling of frustration or anger at the world.
Mm.
But most of us don't act on it in the way Rhiannon does.
Right. She's definitely a unique character.
For sure.
And I think that's part of what makes Sweetpea so successful. It takes those everyday annoyances we all experience and twists them into something truly terrifying.
And darkly funny at the same time.
Exactly.
It's a tough balance to strike.
It is.
But Skuse pulls it off brilliantly.
Definitely.
And McGuire's narration in the audiobook just adds another layer to it. It's like she gets inside Rhiannon's head
Yeah.
and makes her come alive.
Totally.
So yeah, I think we're in for a really interesting deep dive today.
I'm excited to see where it goes.
Me too. It's going to be fascinating to unpack all the different layers of this story
Definitely.
and explore what makes Rhiannon such a captivating yet disturbing character.
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
It's that whole unreliable narrator thing that gets to me. Like, we're stuck with Rhiannon's point of view, her justifications for everything she does. You can't help but question everything. Is she really as smart as she thinks she is? Or is she just totally delusional?
Right. And the diary format makes it even more intense. It's like we're reading her secret diary, hearing her unfiltered thoughts, all those rants about little things that push her over the edge.
And Skuse is so good at tapping into those relatable frustrations. Like, that person in the express lane with way too many items. Or the coworker who microwaves fish in the break room. We've all been there.
Oh, yeah.
But Skuse takes it to this extreme level. It's dark, but it's also hilarious.
Totally. That's where the satire comes in. It's like she's holding up a mirror to our own anxieties and pet peeves, showing us how ridiculous they can become if you take them to their logical conclusion, which is obviously horrifying.
It makes you think about that line between having a dark thought and actually acting on it. Rhiannon crosses that line, of course. But the book forces us to confront those impulses we all have.
You mentioned the unreliable narrator thing before, and it made me think about how Sweetpea is similar to Dexter.
Oh, yeah, I see that.
Another story about a serial killer trying to blend in. But the diary format in Sweetpea makes it even creepier. We're trapped in Rhiannon's head, with no outside perspective to ground us.
Exactly. It's like we're forced to be part of her crimes.
Yeah.
We hear her trying to explain it all away. And sometimes you almost find yourself agreeing with her. Then you're like, wait, did I just sympathize with a serial killer?
It's so well done. Skuse doesn't shy away from the darkness, but there's this wicked humor that keeps you reading, or listening in this case.
Yeah.
You're repulsed, but you can't stop.
For sure.
And Maguire's narration in the audiobook just adds to that effect. The way she delivers those lines. With the perfect amount of sarcasm and detachment, it's chilling.
Yeah, Maguire's amazing. It really shows how a great narrator can elevate a book, especially one like Sweetpea, where the voice is so important. She captures everything about Rhiannon's personality. It's not just reading, it's bringing the character to life.
Absolutely. And thinking about Rhiannon's kill list again, it made me wonder if Skuse is saying something about society, especially how women are expected to just suppress their anger or their frustration. Rhiannon, in her own messed up way, is refusing to be silent.
That's an interesting point. It's like she's taking that good girl image and taking it to the extreme, all while rebelling in the most horrific way possible.
It flips the script on those classic thriller tropes.
Totally.
Instead of a tough detective hunting a killer,
Yeah.
we have this normal-seeming young woman as our main character. And her weapon isn't a gun or a knife. It's her own carefully crafted persona and her carefully planned schemes.
It definitely keeps you guessing. And the fact that Sweetpea is part of a series makes it even more interesting. Makes you wonder, what's next for Rhiannon? Can she keep up this double life? And how far will she go?
So many possibilities. But I want to shift gears a bit and focus on the audiobook experience specifically. We've talked about Maguire's narration, but for people who haven't listened to audiobooks much, how would you describe the impact it has on a story like Sweetpea? Is it just a more convenient way to experience it, or does it add something more?
That's a good question. I think with Sweetpea, the audiobook is almost essential. We're talking about a book that's all diary entries, so the voice is everything. It's how those words are delivered that really matters.
Yeah, I think for a story like Sweetpea, the audiobook format is almost essential.
Oh, for sure.
It's all diary entries, right? So the voice is everything. It's Rhiannon's unfiltered thoughts, her snarky comments, the way she describes those everyday annoyances with this morbid sense of humor. It all comes down to how those words are delivered.
Right, and that's where Georgia Maguire's narration really shines.
I know,
She embodies Rhiannon so perfectly. You hear the boredom in her voice when she's talking about work, then the rage at those who've wronged her, and that almost giddy excitement when she's planning her next move.
Wow.
It adds this whole other layer to the story.
I was reading some reviews on Audible, and people were saying that Maguire's performance makes you forget you're even listening to an audiobook.
I can see that.
It's like she's right there with you, telling you her secrets.
It really shows you the power of a good narrator
Yeah.
to pull you into a story. And with a character like Rhiannon, who's so manipulative and unreliable, Maguire's performance is crucial. It keeps you guessing. You're never sure what to believe.
Exactly. It makes you realize how much we rely on the author's voice to guide us through a story. In Sweetpea, Skuse gives that voice to Rhiannon, And McGuire takes it and runs with it. It's a fantastic collaboration. It creates such an immersive experience.
Definitely. And it's not just about the technical stuff like pacing and tone. It's
Right.
about capturing who the character is.
Yeah.
Their motivations, their vulnerabilities. McGuire makes Rhiannon both terrifying and sympathetic, which is not easy to do.
Not at all. So for anyone who's hesitant about audiobooks, Sweet Pea might be the perfect place to start. It shows how a great narrator can take a story to another level.
Absolutely. It makes you appreciate the art of audiobook production. It's more than just reading words. It's about bringing characters to life, creating a world with sound, and leaving you wanting more.
And that's what any good story should do, right? No matter how it's told. It should make you feel something, challenge your perspective, and stay with you long after you're done. Sweet Pea definitely does that.
Absolutely. It's darkly funny, thought-provoking, and just addictive to listen to.
Well, there you have it. Our deep dive into the audiobook of Sweet Pea by C.J. Skuse. It's a twisted, funny, and insightful look into the mind of a serial killer who turns everyday annoyances into deadly opportunities.
And if you're looking for an audiobook that will stick with you, this is the one.
We've covered a lot today, from C.J. Scuse's brilliant writing and Georgia McGuire's amazing narration to those deeper themes of satire and unreliable narrators. But now it's your turn. What did you think of Sweet Pea? What questions are still on your mind? And most importantly, whose face popped into your head when we mentioned Rhiannon's kill list?
We always say the best deep dives are the ones that get people talking. So share your thoughts. Let's keep the conversation going.
Until next time, happy listening.